Hey everybody, final thoughts time for Time Stories, Brotherhood of the Coast, and as I think has now become kind of the standard for this series, this is another Marmite one. You're probably going to love it or you're probably going to hate it, and while avoiding spoilers, I'll try to give you an idea of why, based on Jen's and my experience. First of all, man, the theme is so wonderfully integrated into this. I mean, the high seas piracy and going to disreputable ports and getting into trouble and just being a good old Pirates of the Caribbean vibe just comes across very nicely. Like always, the art is stellar and the world building is great, and the core thing that makes Time Stories so wonderful, the fact that I've got my adventure, you've got yours, and we have to tell each other stories, works here in spades, like always. So the core, if you've always liked Time Stories, it continues to do that well. And interestingly, man, I really want to say what this is, but it would be a spoiler, and so I don't want to spoil it. In fact, actually, if you watch the main run-through, all I do is I give you the first 60 to 120 seconds worth of gameplay, but I do, at the very end, while warning you a spoiler, I give you one very good piece of news if you are a player of Time Stories that has just gotten so sick and tired of the fundamental Groundhog Day formula. The whole, well, okay, I'll get in there. The game doesn't give us enough time. It's physically impossible to do it. We just get some information, and now we have to go back. We have to do the same stuff to get the same stuff, because now we know that that's important and that's not important, and we take it over there, and then we discover something new, and then we run out of time again, and now we've got to repeat, rinse, wash, and repeat. That's always been a part of it. And for me and Jen, it's never ever been a problem, because I don't understand why so many people do have a problem. I think it's because maybe they're just like a little bit too beholden to the rules. Pro tip, if you want to enjoy Time Stories a little bit more, folks, when you have to go back in and oh, you know what, in the first place we just need the third card because that's where we get the crowbar that we need to unlock the chest that's in the other room. When we're going back in, we kind of treat it like how in a movie, the redoing the same stuff over and over again, the movie doesn't make you watch the whole scene. It turns it into a montage. It just speeds through all that stuff, including Groundhog Day. It did that as well. So we just say, oh yeah, in the first place we know, in the third room is the crowbar. Okay, let's just grab the first place, look at the third. Everybody go there. If we have to roll some dice, we roll the dice. And what took, 5, 10, 15 minutes the first time we were in that room now takes less than a minute. Takes less than 45 seconds, depending on how the rolls go our way. And we just boom. We're doing this. Okay, we got to roll. No, time, roll. Time, roll, time. Okay, we got it. Boom, we're done. Let's roll the big die, go to the next area. Okay, we got two things. You go there, go there. We don't even bother looking at the other cards. We just say, listen, we know we have this card and this card. Boom, we do it. And again, you just zip through this stuff so amazingly fast. I know there's a lot of people who don't have that experience, who say, oh, we got to go back. All right, let's carefully lay out all of the cards. Now let's decide where everybody's going to go. And I can see why if you did that, it would be soul-crushing. I would suggest, folks, fast forward through that stuff. It's kind of the whole point of this. It's a montage, baby. But anyway, for people who don't like the Groundhog Day stuff, even if you don't like it and you know that you should be fast-forwarding through it like Jen and I do, this introduces probably the biggest boon ever. It makes us so powerful in how we can deal with the fact that, right, the game doesn't give us enough time. We have to, basically what happens is, without spoiling specifics, in the regular game, in every game up till now, after you run out of time and you're about to go back in and Bob chews you out and all that stuff, it's just, silly stuff. The only thing you do is you decide, right, where are we going to start? Because maybe you can start in new places. And are we going to take the same characters or are we going to switch it up? Now, in this one, you get a third choice to make as well. And that third choice is, that third choice is huge. It is literally game-changing. It adds more long-term strategy, because you have a lot more control over your destiny now because of this third choice, while still making you have to occasionally do compromises, like the compromises we've always seen of, we know we're going to have to do some fights. I want to take this guy, but we got to take the guy who can pick locks, because we know we got to pick that lock to go get the thing. That's always been kind of the strategic decision-making that changes from run to run. There's now a new third choice that I believe for a lot of people will be a welcome change and will make the Groundhog Day nature of Time Stories much less onerous if it's bothersome. That is great news. And for some people, this might be the best time stories ever, even though it continues the trend that has just been happening more and more where, sorry, you just don't get much time. And you have to do them more. I remember in the original time stories, you almost felt like, man, we could have done this on the first run if we just known a little bit more. Whereas, nope, this is designed to take, Jen and I, we did it in 3 runs because we got a little bit lucky. It might have been 4, but we kind of got lucky on a couple of things. So it probably would have been 4. But again, this makes that much less burdensome, at least in our experience. So there's that. If you want to know what it is, because I think it's very important, it's not a huge spoiler. Again, watch the main run through till the end. I actually show you the card that says, oh, look, you can do this now. And you'll say, why couldn't we do that in every Time Stories, in all of Time Stories history? That would have been great. So that's a big deal. The story, the world is great. Oh, also, for folks who have been a bit disappointed that the meta-narrative, the stuff that has to do with the future and the various factions that, for the most part, they've just been drip-feeding it a lot. Actually, a lot of the information that has to do with the meta-narrative isn't even in the games. It's on the website. Oh, man, folks, if you've been playing through Time Stories and after you finish them, you have not been going back to the website, you are missing out on so much cool, crucial, high-level storytelling. But anyway, I can say this one gets us back into that story. And in fact, it's interesting. I know early next year there's going to be another Time Stories, and it's widely rumored that it's going to be the last one. Or at the very least, that it's going to wrap up the story that has been drip-fed through us all the way through all the different expansions. Now, I don't know that for a fact. Like I said, it's just kind of rumored. But having played this and having seen the events, everything that's been going on in the future is escalated and accelerated, and big things are happening. For all intents and purposes, Jen and I, we ended on a huge cliffhanger. The story itself was closed, but the meta story for us had a monster cliffhanger. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? The biggest one to date. And now it's interesting, based on the choices you make, you might not see the cliffhanger we saw. You might see something that just looks like, okay, you're done here. See you in the next one. And you might be surprised at what's coming. But man, there's big stuff brewing. And I gotta say, more than anything else, that's what got me through this. That's what makes me so excited, and I had a great time playing it. But there are definitely, as always, some problems here. One, Time Stories is always supposed to be an equal part Groundhog Day exploration. Boring as all get out dice rolling combat. Oh my God. And this one has a lot of combat. Although, to be fair, we had very little of it. There are several ways to be able to avoid the most onerous stuff, or at least slim it down to very minor. I mean, I wish the dice would just get thrown away. The game is so much better if it didn't have that, if it was just more about the adventure and the exploration and not about just endless, oh, did we hit, did we get, oh, did they hit us, and But we found we were able to minimize or avoid most of it, which was fantastic based on the choices we made. I'll come back to that in a second. We actually avoided quite a bit because of a choice. But then there's always, I've mentioned this before, almost kind of like an escape room puzzle element to it as well. You pick up clues here and there, and then there's always going to be, like in the same way that there's generally some kind of big epic boss fight you have to do at the end, there's usually some kind of big epic puzzle you have to solve where you've been picking up stuff all the way throughout and it all comes together and you get to do that. This has that. It just has one. There's functionally only one puzzle in this adventure. There's a second puzzle, kind of, which is kind of interesting because it's less of a puzzle and more of kind of like a Eurogames good resource management conversion exercise. I think it might be more puzzling for folks who don't play a lot of economic Euro style games, or for us, generally like, oh, I see what this is. I could totally see this happening in an Uwe Rosenberg game. All right, well, let's make it work. Let's build our little economic engine here. That was really cool. And kind of, some people I think will hate it if you don't like that kind of stuff in board games in general. We thought that was cool. But like I said, there's one big central puzzle. And here's the thing. I'm not going to say anything about it other than the way this puzzle is presented, you could not even know it's there. And Jen and I, we had collected all the clues, and we're like, well, what's this? And okay, this is obviously relative to that, and sooner or later, we're going to see the puzzle that this all comes together to get through the door that we have to do to get the thing. We never saw it. We got to the puzzle card and says, oh, this is the puzzle. And the way it's presented on the card, if you're thinking, if you make some connections, and to be fair, we should have made the connections. We just didn't quite make it. You can look at that and say, oh, this is where all that information will pay off, and that will make dealing with this thing so much easier. We got to that card and said, oh, I guess we just got to deal with this. All right, well, let's just get to it. Roll up our sleeves and just try to figure this particular card out and do what we need to do it. And we kind of, not even knowing, brute forced our way through. It's kind of like the equivalent. This is not what it is. But if this were a spy thing and we came up to some security terminal and, and actually that's true. This did happen in an earlier time stories in the Marcy case. We came up to a computer terminal and we have to hack the computer, and the card says, well, look, here's just 5 different things you could type in. Go ahead and type in whatever you want. And okay, well, we'll type that. And you see what happens. Oh, that was a fail. Oh, that was a fail. Oh, that was a fail. Ah, man, this was really frustrating. We burned through a bunch of time. But if you had paid attention earlier, you would have said, oh, we should know what the password is because we saw this other thing over here. This game has that in a big, big way. And when Jen and I got to that card where we had to type in the code, again, that's not what it is, but it's kind of similar. It didn't even occur to us for a second that, okay, well, let's just start trying to type in codes and see what happens. And oh my God, that was very demoralizing because that ended up creating a probably 15 to 20 minute sequence where, well, that's crap. Well, that's stupid. Oh, that was kind of neat. Why is this doing it to us? And it wasn't until we were finished and I went on Board Game Geek and I was like, what was up with this card and this card and this card? We never used it. And people said, oh, you put them together this way and that's how you knew what to do with the password thing. And we're like, if we had known that, I think we would have thought it was a really cool puzzle instead of just like a really just horrible thing. And so I just warn you, there will come a point when there's a card that tells you, hey, look, you can do 10 different things. Do whatever you want. Stop. That's the one where you're supposed to put all the clues together. So I'm not going to, maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler, I apologize, but I don't want that to happen to anybody else, what happened to us, because it comes near the end, and it definitely left kind of a sour taste in Jen's mouth. Me, I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of dumb, but hey, we're through it now. Now, so just as a warning, there's 2 other things I want to warn you about, because as seems to have become the norm in time stories, there is a major flaw in the structure of this game. That if you make a certain decision at a certain point, you will be denied access to a specific card that is 100% crucial to solving that puzzle. And when you get to the card I was talking about, the passcode card, let's say, even though that's not what it is, you'll have no choice but to try to brute force your way through it because the game actively kept the crucial element from you. Now, the reality is, chances are, I would bet 9 out of 10 groups who come to the place where you can get the crucial information, you can choose to do X, Y, or Z. If you choose to do Z, you'll miss everything. I would bet the vast majority of players will not choose to do Z. They will do X or Y, which means they will get the final piece of the puzzle, the Rosetta Stone, for lack of a better term, and they'll be able to go ahead. There's no way I can warn you what that is, though. Other than to say, look before you leap, let's say. That's just like a general purpose hint. Don't just rush right in, guns a-blazing, maybe take something like that. So that could be a problem. I have seen some people who chose to basically leap before they look. Although, again, that's totally not what it is. This is not a jumping off a cliff situation. And then they just got stuck and they got to brute force their way through later. But like I said, you might end up brute forcing away because you just didn't see the... And so I mentioned these 2 things because by now, the makers of Time Stories should know well enough how to structure these things so these problems don't happen. Why do they keep happening? I don't know. They clearly do not playtest this enough. They clearly don't playtest it enough with English-speaking audiences because, like always, there's a lot of occasionally odd and occasionally embarrassingly bad English translations. That's just become par for the course. It's kind of disappointing. You'll see that here. You'll see these big mistakes. And, all I can say is, folks, just, keep your chin up, mustn't grumble, keep calm and carry on because the overall experience, I think, is worth getting through these road bumps that have just become par for the course with Time Stories at this point. Man, they really just need to hire some editors to help because, the people who are putting this together, again, the overall thing is fantastic. And if you miss these things, or if you play in the original French, probably, it'll go much smoother. But, so that's something to bear in mind. Now, there's one more thing I'm going to talk about, and again, avoiding stories. There is a certain choice. Like always, there's kind of acts. You got your first act, your middle act, and your final act. And the final act's where everything escalates, and you have to do boss fights, and, so there's cool stuff and bad stuff. There is a choice you can make, and I can't even tell you what it is. I wouldn't want to. But I will say, in Jen's and my experience, there's a choice you can make that effectively, functionally, skips the entire third act. And that's what happened to me and Jen. We made choices that led us down that path. We literally finished this game not having seen, gosh, I don't know how many cards. We just have no idea what happened. Now, I'll be honest, after the fact, I always do this with all the time stories. After we're done, I go and I look through all the cards, except for the ones where it says, okay, you're not supposed to do this unless you did certain things. Sometimes there's these special kind of outside the storyline things, but I always look through everything else. So I know what could have happened. And there was some really cool stuff that we did not get to experience. Our third act, where things are really heightened and it's at its highest, most dramatic stuff, we skipped everything and just kind of, it's almost like we entered a cheat code and just skipped right to the end sequence, or not even skipped the final boss fight and just went to the end of game cutscene. That's what happened to us. Jen did not like that. Jen, after coming off the kind of frustrating brute force, even though we didn't realize we didn't have to brute force and we didn't get to do the cool puzzle, which is always our favorite thing to do anyway. That was frustrating for her. And then based on the other choice, we ended up skipping the entire third act. That was very anticlimactic. Now me, as a game developer, I thought the ending was amazing because the narrative reason that it happens is awesome. I talked about this, I think it was in Lumen Fide, that there's something that can happen there that's so game-changing, not in terms of gameplay, but in terms of just the meta story. And in fact, it actually happens outside of the game. This was something like that. Choices were made, and consequences were dealt with, and we ended up with Jen's feeling an anticlimactic ending to the story, and it makes her go into the final and saying, oh, I don't know. Am I going to be able to keep up with this? Now, this is, of course, after the previous one where she literally wouldn't finish it because it was just too dark and grim and violent. And it just got under her skin. Well, what was that one? The Hollywood one. And so this one, that's 2 in a row that she's kind of losing. So I think maybe it's a good thing that if the rumors are correct and the next one that's coming is the end of the storyline, well, I told Jen then, she said, okay, I'm in for it. I've seen it to the end. I hope the last one is where the developers, please do the extra work for your English translation. Do more blind playtesting so you don't run into these stupid logic errors that can ruin the game, depending on if you chose to do Z instead of X or Y because you fully expected people to do Z or X or Y instead of Z. Please, guys, end with a bang. The ingredients are here. Like I said, where we're going, I don't know, but the stage that has been set is looking like it could end with a really cool bunch of fireworks. So I'm excited to see where we go from here and then find out, well, is there going to be a Time Stories 2? I don't know. Fingers crossed if there is, please jettison the dice, folks. That's all I'm saying. And in the meantime, though, that's the run-through, folks, or the talk-through, because, of course, I didn't run through anything, for Time Stories, Brotherhood of the Coast. And I want to say thanks for watching, as always. I hope you have a very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.